I am beating every N64 game, and I mean all of them. The twist is the next game I play is randomly generated, so I have no idea what's coming next. This is the journey to beating every N64 game. If you do like this series, consider giving the video a like, as it does help out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and if you want to see more videos from this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Game number 8, Wave Race 64, developed by Nintendo themselves and released in 1996. This was one of the earliest games on the N64, and man, it's a good one. I played this game a lot when I was a kid, so this was absolutely not my first time playing this. I don't know if I ever beat it back then, but I'll be beating it now. So the game has 4 modes you can do: Championship, Time Trial, Stunt mode, and 2-player versus. We'll be knocking out the Championship mode to beat this game. Upon selecting Championship, there were 3 difficulties: Normal, Hard, and Expert. Hard and Expert weren't accessible yet. Technically, by the rules of this challenge, I only need to beat the game on the default difficulty, which would be Normal in this case. However, that didn't really feel like I'd truly be beating the game, so I decided to beat all of them. Plus, this is a good game, so I wanted to be able to enjoy it for a bit, you know? After picking the difficulty, there's 4 racers to choose from: R. Hayami, who's just kind of average in everything; A. Stewart, who's slow but turns very well; M. Jeter, who's fast and turns well, but has bad acceleration; and D. Mariner, who's the fastest and accelerates the best, but turning is the worst. I ended up going with Mariner, as I wanted to try out the fastest racer. Man, when I loaded that first race and heard the announcer lady say,
"Welcome to Sunny Beach."
Oh my god, I remember this. I haven't touched this since I was probably 6 or 7. I just had this huge joyful feeling from hearing it. I remembered it so well. It was just a burst of feel-good nostalgia. Then hearing the announcer dude during the race with all of his lines, I don't know, it's a good first game of the challenge where I hadn't played it nor seen this game since it was brand new, and it just felt good. So for the gameplay of this game, you're going to race against 3 other jet skis. There's a power meter in the bottom right, which you fill up by either going left or right of the buoys in the water. Getting the power meter to the max makes your speed go up quite a bit, and you also hear the announcer dude yell, which is always nice. But once you've reached max power, you still need to go the direction the buoys tell you, because if you miss 5 of them, you get disqualified from the race. Anyway, this is normal difficulty, so it's not too tough, although I did notice it was real awkward steering with Mariner. When you finish a race, you get points based on how you placed, and it ultimately boils down to, do you have the most points at the end to win the championship? The next course is Sunset Bay. It's a bit trickier than the previous one, but still nothing too wild. However, it didn't go so well this time. Look, I was still getting used to the game, alright, and Mariner's really tough to control with. This game features some pretty realistic water physics that were hailed as top quality back when this game was new. It's definitely a lot different than driving a car. The third course is Drake Lake. This one is like this foggy swamp or marshland we're racing through. Looking back through the footage, it makes me realize how good of an idea having the buoys is. Most of these courses are really basic, just going around a loop with minimal turns, but having to go left or right of the buoys creates a feeling that the course is actually a lot more intense than it really is. Without these, the game would probably honestly be kind of boring. The main thing you might remember from this level is there's a section where there's a bunch of wooden poles sticking out of the ground, and they're incredibly frustrating. Why are these poles here? Who put them there? Why are we racing near these dangerous poles? Anyway, I got 2nd place on this one. Course number 4 is Marine Fortress. This one's like racing in a port or harbor or something like that. There's a couple areas where there's some boxes floating in the water. I guess it's spilled cargo or something. Clean up your litter, people, come on. I got first in this one, even though I still kinda sucked at controlling the jet ski. Next up is Port Blue, another harbor port area. This one has barrels of oil or something floating in the water instead of boxes. What example are the devs trying to set here? Clean up your mess. Overall though, this one's not too tricky, and I got first place as well. The final course is Southern Island. This one has a few interesting features to it. A sunken boat, some random docks in the water, some tiki hut things you navigate around. One thing that's really cool about this course compared to others is the water level sinks throughout the race, so it opens up new paths as you go. Such as after the first lap, you can't just drive over the boat, you have to go off a ramp to go over it. Overall though, it was still pretty simple, and I got first place here too. With having 30 points versus M. Jeter's 22 points in second, I had beaten the game. The game plays some cutscene showing you on the podium, and it's like, hey, you're the champion, yeah, or whatever. So technically I'd beaten Wave Race and we're done here, but it didn't feel really fulfilling and the game's fun, so I decided to move on to the higher difficulties. Next up, hard. The higher difficulties aren't very different from the lower ones. The other racers get faster, the placement of the buoys changes, and some elements of courses change. For example, in Sunny Beach, there's some mines in the water now, like, who's running this race? It's dangerous. Also on hard, I finished my first race where I didn't miss any buoys and got first place, and the announcer guy goes nuts. I have no clue what the heck he's yelling, maybe bonsai? But there's also a shortcut that opens up in Marine Fortress, and at these higher difficulties you're going to need to use every shortcut to win. The main appeal of the higher difficulties though is you get access to new tracks. On hard you can play the Twilight City course. This one's probably one of my favorites. It has a cool shortcut taking the ramp literally right at the start of the track. And it's cool because it takes place at night. I think I just like the nighttime aesthetic. Anyway, hard was quite a step up in difficulty, so I switched to M. Jeter. He by far gives you the most control over turning the jet ski, and he has pretty good speed to go with it. I was able to take first place, edging out Mariner by just 2 points. Unfortunately, it doesn't play any additional cutscene for higher difficulties, it's just the same one. That would have been a nice touch, I think. So now on to expert difficulty. Same thing applies here, the racers get faster, the buoys change their placement, and 1 new course is unlocked. Decided to stick with Jeter here, it's just too nice having as much control as he gives. Expert is actually really tough. You gotta essentially memorize the courses and the lines you need to take, or you have no chance at first. Also, if you have any kind of significant slowdown or miss any buoys, you're probably not getting first. The first real struggle point is in Drake Lake at the spot where the wooden poles are in the water. The placement of the buoys makes this nuts, and it took quite a while to get decent at it. The new course that gets added in expert mode is Glacier Coast, and as you can guess it's an icy course. This place is so dangerous, like why are we racing here? There's giant sheets of ice the jet ski constantly has to go over, which I'm not even sure is possible in real life. There's also these icy boulders all over the water. Anyway, it only took 3 tries or so at the expert circuit to get first place, narrowly edging out Mariner. Little did I know there was actually a secret 4th difficulty. It's mirror mode with expert difficulty racers. The courses themselves are the same as the expert circuit, and there's no new ones, so I won't really go into that, although you can be assured I did beat it. Unfortunately, there's no special cutscene or reward or anything like that for beating mirror mode. So this game has one more interesting thing I checked out in this playthrough, and that's the stunt mode. I remember playing a lot of this when I was a kid, and it's still pretty fun today. Basically, you go through the same courses as all the races, but now there's a bunch more ramps, and there's rings scattered throughout the map. Collecting the rings increases your score, and getting consecutive rings gives you a bigger bonus. You can also do tricks to gain points as well. The only one I could really figure out was a backflip, which gave a pretty good score, but I know you can also do a barrel roll, and somehow you can do tricks like while you're just driving, not even in the air, but I couldn't really figure it out. Overall, I think this was a great addition to the game, and it feels a lot different than the racing modes. So you may notice this video contains 2 games, and you're like, hey, what's up with that? Well, it turns out Wave Race 64 had a separate release in Japan only called Wave Race 64 Shindo Pactao version. I'm sure I pronounced that correctly. This is listed as its own release in the catalog of N64 games, so it's part of the 394 that I'll be beating. The differences in this version are that it now has Rumble Pack support, which is indicated in the top right corner when the game first starts, and it also supports saving and racing against a world record ghost in the time trials. I also believe the announcer voice has changed in this version, but since it's a Japan-only release, all the voices are in Japanese, so I can't really tell. But since this is listed as its own release, I did beat it separately, although only on normal to not have to repeat everything, you know? So there you have it, my journey to beating Wave Race 64 and the Shindo Pactao version. This game had held up pretty well, and it makes sense it was received so well back in the day. It just feels real nice to play, and I think it holds up through the years. Although my nostalgia may be affecting that, I give it a 7.5 out of 10 for enjoyability and a 2 out of 10 for difficulty, since technically to beat it you only have to do it on normal. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, it does help out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and if you want to see more videos from this series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. But yeah, thank you for watching, and here's a sneak peek at what's coming next. What will we get? Oh, we got 280. The next Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey game.